Borderlands 4 is going to be a big hit. I genuinely do believe, regardless of the problems that are surrounding this game, that it will still sell well. However, there's one really big problem with Borderlands 4 that we do need to discuss here. It's not the game's writing or its gameplay systems, but it's actually its CEO, Randy Pitchford. Look, I don't hate Randy. He's eccentric, that's for sure, and that medieval times story is still weird, to say the least. But Randy does seem very passionate about Borderlands, and I mean, who can blame him? Like, did you know that Borderlands is in the top 5 best-selling first-person shooters of all time? Yeah, these games make a lot of money and for good reason, because they are fun and addictive to play, even when the writing is kind of terrible at times. I'm looking at you, Borderlands 3. But like I said, the elephant in this vault is Randy himself. The guy just can't help himself, but seemed to let his ego get in his way all of the time. And I'm starting to think that Randy has been doing more damage than good for Borderlands the longer he's been allowed to say whatever it is that he wants to. So let's get into this. This is from PC Gamer. Randy Pitchford makes people mad again by warning that Borderlands 4 will take even longer to get deep discounts than Borderlands 3 did. Like I said, Randy has a tendency to just self-sabotage himself and his company by proxy every single time he decides to voice his opinions. To sum up what started this, Borderlands 3 was set to 95% off on Steam during the summer sale. Obviously, this was done to promote Borderlands 4 and get people interested in the franchise by promoting the previous game for the price of like a drink pretty much. It's a great deal, and if you haven't played Borderlands 3 and you are on Steam, that deal is insanely good. Of course, that's where this story should end. Borderlands 3 is 95% off. It's a good game with terrible writing, but if you play it on mute while listening to music or like a podcast or something, you're gonna have a good time with it. Of course, though, Randy, being Randy, he had to be himself. Here's how he promoted it by saying, "Sales like this and Borderlands 3 showing up on console subscription programs took over 5 years from the game's launch to happen. Take advantage when it's here, and to set expectations, it will be even longer before this kind of thing happens in the next cycle with Borderlands 4. Ah, Randy, already soiling the 95% off by pretty much saying this is good, but don't expect this for Borderlands 4 anytime soon. You're gonna have to pay more for longer until it happens to get this cheaper in the future. I mean, what are we doing, man?" As one user would reply by saying, "You really do like to throw water on your own fire." Randy would fire back with, "Just trying to be helpful. I suppose a cynical mind might see it another way. But I think your comment reveals more about you than it does about me. Cheers." No, Randy, see what I mean? Okay, this video is now going to pretty much be an intervention for Randy, guys. Someone please send this video to Randy Pitchford, for God's sakes. Look, again, I don't hate Randy. He does good work, but I have to imagine that the guy is about as media trained as a toddler. First of all, why are you responding to a user on a public forum telling them that they're miserable and wrong? You're the CEO of Gearbox, man. Why are you doing this? Why even get into petty squabbles like this? The correct response to that comment would simply be, "My bad, thanks for the support," and then moving on with your day. Another user would comment saying, "I swear he is absolutely terrible at marketing. Why did this need to be said like this? Also, I thought you didn't have a say in pricing," and how did Randy respond? "I am not marketing. I am trying to be helpful. I don't set pricing and did not even know about the sale before it was announced. However, I do know a lot about the macro games industry and business and have seen our games through many cycles over many years. Cheers." A little bit better, but you're still coming off as condescending, Randy. Also, how does the CEO of the game that is on sale not somehow know that his game is going to be on sale? Come on, Randy. And then another user would say this, "You and your team make some of my favorite games, but you make it really hard to like you when you spit crap out like this. It's like you never learned. The Battleborn Overwatch incident, many people blame you for Battleborn's failure." And as you can see, Randy at least takes accountability for Battleborn, but the statement remains, which is that Randy needs media training. Or at the very least, he just needs to delete Twitter from his phone. Or maybe just have someone else manage his account that is actually media trained. Because every single problem with Borderlands 4 seemingly doesn't even come from the game itself. Instead, its woes and its issues lie solely with Randy as a person. It's like he can't get out of the way of his own massive ego, and it shows. However, this one here is justification alone that Randy Pitchford just needs to delete Twitter, not for censorship reasons, but like business ones. Because come look at this, guys. This one user would say, still not buying anything from you ever again. How does Randy respond to this? Cool, bro. I'm not selling anything to you ever again either. Cheers. Oh my god, Randy, somebody, please. Anyone at Gearbox is watching this, please. Is nobody confronting Randy about this stuff? Why are you letting your CEO talk like this to customers? We all know if a Gearbox employee talked like this to a user on Twitter or something like that, they would be raked over the coals for potentially sabotaging Gearbox's finances and public image internally. Yet I guess because it's the CEO, he's just allowed a free pass to literally say, cool bro, we don't want your money anyways. Does Randy understand how business works? Apparently he does, but like, come on man, your public persona matters. You can't be saying stuff like this. Because you're not just talking to this guy on Twitter. Your response is public. It's to everyone who reads it who is a fan to Gearbox's games. People who liked his post showed support to not buy your game. If we take that guy's response and likes and equate it to a dollar value, before taxes, that means that this single comment represents a net loss of almost $4,000 for Gearbox based on likes alone. Sure, Randy might go, what's $4,000 to someone like me? But that's the hubris again. That could easily balloon to 40,000, then 400,000, then 4 million, and so on. And this is why I keep saying that the biggest problem with Borderlands 4 right now is Randy Pitchford. I don't hate him. I understand that he's important to the overall vision of Borderlands since he did help make it a thing to begin with. But Randy, dude, this is not the way to go. You need to stop talking like this to your customers. In the examples I showed alone, you basically said you're okay with players boycotting you that don't agree with you, I guess. That you don't set the pricing of your games despite telling people not to expect price changes on Borderlands 4, and you're just getting into online fights for no reason. Another user would respond, you're gonna get such a shock when Borderlands 4 flops on launch. Plenty will play it in the following years when those sales come. On launch, it's an incomplete game, launch bugs, years of drip feeding content. In 4 years, it's perfect, complete, and costs $10. Randy then says this will not age well, see you in September. Look, again, like I said, I don't think Borderlands 4 will flop. But good Lord Almighty, can someone at Gearbox put the Hannibal Lecter muzzle on Randy's face? Like, at least until a few months after Borderlands 4 officially releases, because this guy's going to cost you money and goodwill, all because his ego just can't handle arguing with online internet strangers. However, not everyone thinks this way, okay? You have Game Rant, which came to the defense of Randy with their article recently titled, Borderlands 4's sales controversy is proof the industry needs transparency even though it won't listen to what Randy Pitchford has to say. As they state here in their article, Game Rant believes that Randy is simply being transparent and realistic with his reasons as to why Borderlands 4 is what it is. How this honest communication on Randy's side is warranted, but might not be widely adopted industry-wide because of hostile comments from fans. But to me, what this just sounds like is damage control for a gaming executive who just refuses to learn how to read the room. The problem here is not that the fans are hostile, because nobody would be attacking or criticizing Borderlands 4 at all if not for Randy's comments in the past. We all know the if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to buy the game story, which was the initial catalyst for Borderlands 4's online presence to just go, nuclear. And while Game Rant might believe this is Randy being transparent, it isn't. It's just damaging. It's condescending. It shows actually a complete lack of understanding on the fundamentals of what fans want from games and the people who make them. Versus what the people who make them think fans want. Yes, people do love transparency. There's nothing wrong with telling things how it is in theory. However, with Randy, like I've shown already, he's allowing his ego to get in the way of his own success time and time and time and time and time again. It's never okay to attack your fans, regardless of the reasonings that you might think or the justification. You never do it because you never attack the customer. Always remember that if you're facing backlash for any one reason, you have to understand that it comes from a place of frustration and betrayal on the other side. So when you're seeing a gaming website like Game Rant here white knighting for a gaming CEO, it doesn't really surprise me, because Game Rant does try to justify Randy's defense that Borderlands 4 will not be on sale for a long time because of the reasons they list here as seen. Stuff like costs have gone up and AAA budgets have ballooned. Okay, but this doesn't justify anything. How does the actions of executives who decide these budgets somehow become the problem of the consumer? It would be like me making a video and then saying, this video better get 1 million views plus. Why? What do you mean, why? Do you know how much work goes into it? How dare you, blah, blah, blah. No, you don't do that. It's not the consumer's job to sympathize or accept why you're being anti-consumer or hostile towards them. I hate to break it to you guys, but these people, like the consumers and the creators, the consumers, they don't owe you anything. They're free to spend their money or time anywhere that they please. And trying to claim Borderlands 4 can't go on sale anytime soon, even though it will, I guarantee you. It's gonna be like 20 to 30% off like 2 months after release during the winter season. Like, come on already, that always happens. I guess not if you're Nintendo, because their games never go on sale. But saying, oh, it can't happen because this game was expensive and we need the money, it's not the consumer's fault. I'm not sorry. Nobody asked the industry to make their budgets bigger than like a Marvel's Avengers movie. We've seen that cheaper made, less expensive to buy games are doing great and making profits this year already. And I think what's happening here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all of this just sounds like the death cries of an industry that is just desperate to justify their own hubris and their shortcomings. As instead of changing how they do things, changing and adapting to the meta, readdressing how games are made or marketed. No, instead, they're so fixed into their ways that the idea of changing how they do things is just seen as impossible to them now. We can't make cheaper Borderlands games or anything else. Why? Because that's just not how we do it. We need to keep making it bigger. Even though just making your game bigger and costing more doesn't always mean that they're better. The industry is changing. Yeah, we know that, but it seems like the only thing not changing are the people who seem to be wanting to stay in positions that are just steering these ships or studios, if you will, into like new waters. Instead, they just seem terrified of altering course, as if it even to suggest a cheaper Borderlands game that's maybe like $40 or $50 at launch and is smaller, that's somehow a bad idea. Obviously, we know price matters to what people support. Borderlands 4 being $70 and not $80 now, yeah, that's a step in the right direction. But it doesn't help when you have a middle-aged man acting like a teenager on social media that is picking fights publicly because people are annoyed with him. But the cope is real, because Game Brand said this, and I mean, just let me read this for you. There's certainly a conversation to be had that continues to be had about the ballooning development costs in the AAA sector of the industry. But Randy's transparency regarding this is welcome, except when it isn't. The top comments are all vitriolic remarks, citing Randy as bad at marketing, saying that he's full of crap and a lot less savory remarks, and Randy took the time to reply to several of them. He met the energy of some of them, tried to reason with those who were respectful, and otherwise took a lot on the chin. Randy is not marketing Borderlands 4 in tweets like this, he is setting expectations. He is not trying to sell a dream of the next genre-defining looter-shooter game on the market, skyrocketing expectations of its fans. He is being transparent. And his seemingly good faith gestures and remarks have been met with bad faith readings that assume the worst. Oh my god, Game Rant, could you have his package in your mouth even more if you tried? This sounds either like a super fan of Borderlands, who doesn't want it to fail, or like Gearbox paid for it. I'm not insinuating that they did, okay, relax, but Game Rant claiming that the top comments were nasty, that's just cope, dude, come on. They're only the top comments because Randy responded to them, so that's why they get put to the top, which proves, if anything, then Randy just has a strange ability to sift through, comments online and then find the absolute worst ones to just respond to, 100% of the time. In fact, if you ask me anyway, he shouldn't respond to them at all. When the Borderlands 3 95% sale got announced, he should have just said, if you've never played Borderlands, now is the time to try it out for yourself. Thanks for the support as always, and see you in September. And that's literally it. Because neutral responses work the best. Instead, he undermined an easy win again, mind you, by letting his ego get in the way. And come on, it keeps happening. So claiming that Randy is being harassed when he's just getting comments from people commenting on the already stupid things that he said about Borderlands in the past just 2 months ago even is not because he's a victim. All of this is because Randy doesn't know how to control his emotions. That might sting a bit, but he has to look inward and be, real with himself. Because those comments, they would not exist if he never said, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to buy it in the first place. Like, how do you expect people to respond? They should just like lay down and take it? Of course not. And this is what I mean when I say that gaming journalism continues to push disinformation and cope like this. Because if you took this article at face value without, knowing everything else around it context-wise, you would think that Randy was like Shigeru Miyamoto, just standing there innocently and staring at the camera and smiling, and then for like no reason, someone just comes out of somewhere and just punched him in the face and knocked him out. But in reality, no, he did that to himself. Like, I don't know how much more clear we have to be with that. Here, for full transparency's sake, here's the tweet from Randy that he said, I did not edit this in some way or whatever, that started this whole storm for Borderlands 4 originally. Here, the real fan tweet, go ahead, read it for yourself multiple times, pause the video, tell me anywhere in that with context that it somehow paints Randy as being a victim. You know that it doesn't. It does nothing of the sort. This is the response of a man, let's be honest, whose ego is too big. Again, I'm not launching a hate campaign against Randy. This video is an intervention for this guy to come to terms with the fact that he can be a CEO of a company. But it doesn't mean that you can't be wrong about the things that you say too. And I am fully aware that me making this video will probably not put me in Gearbox's good graces, and I'm okay with that because someone has to say it. Look, I like Gearbox. I played all the Borderlands games. Well, not Tales from the Borderlands 2 because that looked like ass, but I played everything else. But I don't want people to boycott Gearbox or reject Borderlands 4, but we need to address this problem with Randy now, before things get worse in the future, and he ends up saying something even more stupid or dividing people more. Like I said in another video on Borderlands 4 like a month ago, all Randy should be doing on Twitter is just retweeting fan art or clips of fans enjoying the Borderlands games. Maybe retweet some cosplayers and say like, wow, this looks awesome, thanks for cosplaying our game, and that's it. Like, it can be so easy for Gearbox and Randy, but he just refuses to not let his opinions get in the way of what should be like the easiest slam dunk release of the year. Are you kidding me? Borderlands 4, dude, come on. This should just make like all the money in the world. But like whenever the new trailer for Borderlands 4 inevitably releases in the future, all Randy has to do, okay, is just hit the retweet button with the release date, maybe just say like, September 2025. But at this point, I fully expect Randy to instead retweet a new trailer and then say something like, can't wait to show the haters wrong in September, or something along those lines. And then the people will swarm the comments again, articles will be written again, opinions will multiply like loot blasting from a chest, and then we're right back where we started again. Like I said, hopefully someone sends this video to Randy and he actually watches it. And if he does, hello Randy, hope you're doing well. Know that none of this comes from a malicious place. And as a fan of Borderlands since the beginning, I am excited to play the next game. But for the love of God, man, you gotta stop doing this. Tone it down. Realize that what you're doing is not helping your game, and understand that when you hit send tweet with some malicious response, you're not just jeopardizing yourself, but the hundreds of people who rely on this game to be a success so they can stay employed and, support their families and whatnot. So stop attacking the fans. Take the advice that I'm giving you and focus on what really matters, which is your fan base of Borderlands fans, because without them, you have nothing, and you know that. So hopefully this video conveys the message that I want to say, that I'm sick and tired of CEOs or game devs or really anyone in the games industry at all attacking fans, twisting words, fighting online. It's just a headache that should be, in theory anyways, easy to avoid. And frankly, I'm genuinely surprised by how often it just keeps on happening. And maybe, Randy, you can take some media classes to learn how to respond to users. I'm sure you can get that, sorted out for you. Hell, you know what? I'll tutor you for God's sakes if I have to. This is me extending that olive branch to you. I don't want to see you nor Gearbox fail. But we gotta start rebuilding this divide before it gets even worse. But that's all I had to say for now. What do you think about Randy's comments or game rants, article? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you next time. And I'm serious about that offer, Randy. I will literally give you advice if you want, so you don't end up in these situations again. My DMs are open. All right. Have a nice day, everybody.